the truth. I hate the word fat. How about you? Call it extra weight, burritos, double donuts, muffin top, porky, spare tires. It's just plain irritating. What to do? If you eat a lot of corn, flour, or sugar, there's garbage that goes with eating those foods. So here's a remedy. Life Change Tea. Drink our tea and watch unwanted pounds leave. Fat is like crud. Let Life Change Tea clean your insides and remove the crud. Many customers have lost over 30 pounds. Weight loss varies by how much weight you carry. Health in this day and age should be your number one priority. Don't wait. No pun intended. GetTheTea.com. Order now. Our tea tastes great, and watch it go to work on you. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Or you can call 928-308-0408. Don't wait. 928-308-0408. Or log on to GetTheTea.com.
Hello. I have something I'd like to share with you. LisaKCandles.com is an all-natural soybean candle alternative. Before I found Lisa K Candles, I had lingering soot and allergens in my home. Not today. My Lisa K Candles are clearly a difference to see and breathe. And you know, that's a good peace of mind. LisaKCandles.com is an all-natural soybean candle, handmade from their popular line of fragrances. And guys, these candles make a perfect gift. Order an all-natural soy candle from LisaKCandles.com. I'm glad I did, and I know you will be too. Visit LisaKCandles.com. That's Lisa, the letter K, candles.com. Or call 731-441-3293. That's 731-441-3293.
All right, everybody, welcome again to another live edition of The Story Behind the Story. Today is Tuesday, the 25th of June, 2013. I am your Tuesday and Wednesday host, Alex Studer, coming to you from the back of a rusted-out ice cream truck somewhere under a bridge in the beautiful city of San Francisco. How are you folks doing today? Thanks for joining us. Wow, we're having some unseasonably strange weather out here in our world. And I suppose no matter where you are in the world these days, things are just a little topsy-turvy weather-wise. If you've been listening at all to this show, especially True Ott's broadcasts, you'll have learned of his recent presentation that he gave at Conspiracy Con here in Santa Clara a couple weekends ago. And hopefully you will have had a chance by now to have gone to his blog at atrueott.com and checked out the post where he uploaded his PowerPoint presentation that he gave at Conspiracy Con. It's a presentation he put together called Whether or Not. And it focuses all around weather manipulation, which is kind of an unheard of field of research. You kind of don't really hear too many people talking about weather manipulation and weather warfare in your local sports bars. So I'm going to kind of lead off on this subject today, folks, and then we'll spend the rest of today kind of cruising the airwaves and getting brushed up on some of the other stories that are really being either misreported or just not reported or underreported. Again, you're listening to the Micro Effects, the story behind the story. This is True Ott's show, and he just asked me a couple months ago, would I mind sitting in for him on Tuesdays and Wednesdays to help him have more time as he works with church-related activities and other endeavors that he does. And I said, sure, no, why, thank you. I'm got to know True by way of a person who I think we'll talk a little bit about Dr. Bill Deagle today. Sure, why not? But we'll get there in a little bit. But again, meeting back in '09, as I just sort of got interested in this whole H1N1 nonsense, which I've concluded wholeheartedly based on my initial hunch and then supporting research. There's just mountains of evidence to show that this thing they called swine flu was a bioengineered lab virus, which ultimately gave rise to the name that I chose for my fairly insignificant little blog called labvirus.com. You can go there right now, and I don't really have a whole lot of commentary posted today, just a couple links to some key stories and research sites that I threw up for today. I've been incredibly busy lately, folks. Working for the enemy, pretty much. But I can say it's certainly given me some insight into the inner workings of some of these larger organizations that are certainly part and parcel of a lot of this NSA spying agenda and whatnot. Now, I'm not going to get into any details of what I observed. There's certain non-disclosure agreements that are either signed or implied, and just, out of politeness and desire to just, not damage my ability to work, I'm not going to go jeopardizing that by exposing anything, which is also to say that there's probably not much there that I could expose even if I wanted to. I certainly would never get privy to any of the nuts and bolts, nitty-gritty things. But it's interesting, though, to observe and see the mind and feel, I guess, the mindset, the groupthink, which is so prevalent in some of these organizations, especially in the context of reading about how involved they are. So in leading off today, I figured I'd go ahead and revisit something that I used to do quite often, the chemtrail report. And it kind of ties into the weather modification thing. Certainly there's a buzz phrase that people toss around these days called geoengineering. And there's even a website, a nonprofit called Geoengineering Watch, like your wristwatch, geoengineeringwatch.org, which is a fairly decent reporting site, and they certainly take uploads and stories from the public as to local chemtrail sightings and reportings, and any information about the samples of the materials being dumped. From my personal standpoint, just being out here on the left coast, certainly it's no new topic. We've been bombarded heavily for time immemorial. It's really funny to watch. I was checking out this, they have these vintage TV channels that you can see some of the older shows on. And so I was watching an episode of The Streets of San Francisco. It's quite nostalgic to us natives, and many people still like to see the old SF as it used to be, and some of the car chases they filmed on. But some of these, the shots, including the sky, showed some of the very same characteristics that we have determined now are evidence of chemtrails, which to me suggests this program started a lot earlier than many people think it did. There are one or two people that I could name off the top of my head, whom I won't. I don't want to promote their disinformational campaigns, but these people have they've reported some truth, but they've also, as I've been able to determine, sort of interlaced some non-truth or spin into it. And one of these people in particular is very vehement about, oh yeah, the chemtrail thing started in the early 90s, and it came out of DARPA and da-da-da. Okay, well, I agree about the DARPA part, totally. And I'll get into why in a second. But as far as starting in 93, no, I don't think so. Again, I've been sort of using this vintage TV channel and old movies like Columbo. So a lot of stuff shot in the 70s and late 60s that was in color, both up here and down in Los Angeles or LA or Hollyweird. And a lot of these sky shots show what I'm certain about today are chemtrails. So I'm gonna go with no. It's probably a bit older than we think, and it's had time to grow technologically. And then I'm also going to hold up for consideration the idea that with regard to what I and others call black op technology, which is uncirculated and not for public consumption, the black ops, stuff that's way underground, Cheyenne Mountain and so forth, the advanced technology that is known only to the elite and the, folks like NSA and that sort. The advanced technologies that exist beyond what we are shown, the public is shown, I'll just throw out, at the very least, most of it outdates what we consider modern by 50 years. So that being said, I believe that supercomputing power exists way beyond what we think we have seen. And also capabilities with regard to scalar energies and cloaking, which kind of wraps into the one enchilada, one burrito is, time travel issue, wormholes and sort of interdimensionality. Going all the way back to 1943, August 12th, where they made that battleship disappear in the Philadelphia experiment. Okay, Tesla was involved in that, Nikola Tesla. And he saw what they were trying to do. They had a badly failed experiment. He removed himself from that project when he realized, this is not for good purposes. And they went ahead with it anyway, and they had disastrous results because he wasn't there to really help them understand that, why they needed a time-based grounding for anybody involved in actually standing on the ship when they flipped the switch. And basically what happened is people that were on the deck and they didn't have a time-based grounding to the actual ship. They started floating away from the ship while it was sort of rotating into what they call hyperspace. And when they rotated back into this time-space sphere, when they materialized again, as far as the observer was concerned, you had guys like fused into the middle of 1-foot steel wall deck. It was very gory. It was a gruesome scene. A couple of them died, and others had to just be amputated away from the parts of their bodies that were fused into the metal as they rotated back in. It's, a much covered up and distorted story. Certainly they've mocked it and dramatized it to get people to disbelieve what they actually accomplished. But again, This was an event, and Peter Moon will tell you, and so will guys like Preston Nichols and Al Bielek, Duncan Cameron, and anyone else associated with that Montauk project. That very date, that very rotation of that battleship on August 12th, 1943, into hyperspace somehow opened up this kind of time wormhole and permanently connected it to that very same date, 40 years later, which was pretty much the last day of the Montauk Project, where they manifested this junior right afterward, and caused the closing of the project as far as the above ground version was concerned. And I know I'm beating around the bush a little bit, but I'm getting into this black op technology thing because what they did is, as far as I'm concerned, is they took guys like David Anderson, the Time Research Institute guy, and probably buried him away somewhere, and took the Montauk guys and that research, and used it to apply it toward advanced spacecraft and aircraft and that sort of thing for cloaking. My understanding is, and there are those who claim to be insider government techies who have debated this with me, pshaw it and say, no, that's not what it is. Well, I don't know. I've heard different, and until you show me otherwise, I'm kind of going with what I know and what my gut is telling me, and that is that this whole thing they call stealth, the stealth fighter, the stealth this and that, radar invisibility. Well, it's a lot more than just radar. It's complete invisibility, and it's accomplished by way of sort of rotating into hyperspace ever so slightly. And the easiest way of expressing that would be to say, traveling in time just ahead of yourself by a couple microseconds. Very, very tiny amount of time travel. I know it's hard to wrap your brain around that, and a lot of people just go, huh? But I'm going to say this is most likely now I'm going with, because I've been, I know you people think I'm crazy. What the heck is he talking about? Getting back to chemtrails. And I'm hoping there are listeners of you out there who are with me on where I'm going and why I'm even talking about this, because this is transhumanism. This is the thing that they've been talking about. Ray Kurzweil and the Mormons and the nanotech, revolution. It's going to make humans better, okay? They're already doing it, is what I'm saying. And they've been doing it a long time, and it's covert, and it's under the great radar, and nobody really knows that it's already been systemically, worldwide, applied. There is no one, I don't think anyone on this planet, who has not been affected by this overt or covert spraying of the world's population with this nanotech, which once it's inside you really starts taking over and becomes systemic and has its own sort of pre-programmed agenda, and we'll learn about that in a minute. So now there's these groups. Okay, rah. Okay, let's protest. Activist groups, right? Once something comes out as being, an issue, well, certainly there's an activist group to oppose it. All right. Now, I venture to say that as soon as something arises for controversy, not only do activist groups rise to oppose it, but controlled opposition groups rise to oppose it. And I'm always suspect of the ones with the most money who seem to get the lead on everyone else with the bigger venues, the larger audiences, and certainly the largest sources of funding. I hold up in perfect example this guy, Alex Jones, AJ, as we call him. Okay, I'm not going to get into railing the guy. If you haven't figured out through your own homework that this guy is most likely a bought and paid for Zionist shill, working for Mossad, the state of Israel, the Zionist powers that be that are serving to bring forth this globalist, genocidal New World Order agenda, well, then I'd say maybe it's time for you to do some more homework. And he's certainly not alone. And, let's go to the Genesis Communications Network, GCN, that he's on. Okay. I'm not sure if, well, I can imagine True would have mentioned something a little bit about it yesterday. I've been kind of hearing these, seeing these notes travel around with regard to his being approached out of the blue, unprovoked by Dr. Bill Deagle, this is kind of interesting to me. The way this has transpired just in the course of the last few days, just over the weekend, did this little altercation, this exchange occur, and it's oddly similar to what occurred to me at the end of my run with Deagle, after being so well received by him for so long. And it was just really strange. And in a nutshell, folks, I can explain this away. I just began listening to the Deagle show. I became interested. I called in as a listener, and was invited to keep calling from time to time because I had, I don't know, certain talent to take jargon, complex things and express them in more simple terms. I guess that maybe that's something to do with my being a musician, rock song, songwriter, and composer for film and television. Who knows? Nonetheless, so it went, and for months and months, I started my blog then, and at the time, I was collecting so many relevant pieces of information regarding the H1N1 bioweapon aspect, and at the same time the toxicity of vaccines. He started calling me the super blogger on air, and went even so far to include my website's URL when he went out and made presentations on these topics at some very big conventions and stuff, and I was fine with that. We didn't really have any written agreement or anything like that. And as far as he thought, I think what he thought is that I was like really working to try and help him sell more products. Because Deagle has a real big business on his websites of pushing all these products. He has his own line of what he calls NutriMeds, and then he resells a number of others, silver products and nascent diatomic iodine, just for starters, and other machines like nebulizers, that sort of thing. Okay, no harm, and certainly a lot of these products, if not all of them, are certainly very high quality, good naturopathic health products. And I think what he, was hoping that he was going to gain further exposure and increase product sales through cross-linking with my blog and so forth, which I didn't really mind. Again, I started my blog with the whole intent of not being anyone's stooge or anyone's lackey, and with reference to these Edomite Bopsy twins, whose names I still won't even pronounce on air. They're not worthy. But you folks ought to know by now who I'm talking about. Their comments that, I'm a fame-seeking stooge and lackey and soldier for X, Y, and Z. It's just so not true. Okay, my whole intent at the beginning was just to stay neutral and not sell anything, not become sponsored by anyone, not really take in any major donations requiring me at all to follow anyone's agenda, because my whole quest is for simple truth. the hard, cold, unabated, unadulterated truth in whatever form that is in. And so, long story short, I think what happened is down the road, Deagle discovered
gold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
And we're back, folks, for the second hour of today's Story Behind the Story. It is the 25th of June, 2013. You're listening to Alex Studer from San Francisco. I'm your Tuesday, Wednesday host. Reminding you that you're listening to The Micro Effect. This is listener-supported radio, folks. We are not supported by Clear Channel. We're not owned by any of these giant media conglomerates. Okay, this is literally a mom and pop operation. Joe and Kelly McNeil and their family put their blood, sweat, and tears into this personally. This is a labor of love, bringing you truth radio, freedom of speech on steroids, and it needs your contributions to survive and continue. So please do what you can. Donate generously to the Micro Effect, and at the very least, get your hands on a subscription to the archives for $20 a month. You can have access to every single show going back as far as a year at any time, day or night, for live streaming off the site or download to your whatever. So well worth the time, well worth the money. Please contribute and do your part to help keep Truth Radio alive. Thanks again. Again, I'm the author of this little blog called labvirus.com, and I know we're gonna get into this. All ties together, folks. This is kind of why I ended up branching off on these subjects from just starting out with bioengineered lab viruses and toxic vaccines, because they're all part of the same octopus. They're all tentacles of the same monster. So, as I spoke of chemtrails and Morgellons to you folks in the first hour, we kind of segue into transhumanism and psychotronics. Okay, what's psychotronics? Well, that's advanced technology, beam weaponry. Okay, made even more effective if you've already got a chip implanted in you, or other advanced nanotechnology. As we were just talking about, is what is called Morgellons. Okay, so if the thinking goes, oh, well, we've already been infested with this parasitic nano garbage, which is automatically assembling chips inside us, transceiver arrays with lenses and antenna, and okay. So I found this page. It's at a site called dataasylum.com, all one word, data asylum, like lunatic asylum.com, called Physical Nanofiber / Bio API Examples. I'd imagine you could probably just find it by doing a search on the term Bio API, BIOAPI. Just, go to dataasylum.com, search for that. But this this goes so far as to really kind of argue that some of these nanotech fibrous infestations are working mechanically to create stealth lenses and inside your eyes that are capturing images that can be remotely accessed and monitored. Some other references to predictive programming from Hollyweird to sort of satirize and explain some of these technologies. So go check out that page, physical nanofiber / bio API examples at the site dataasylum.com. Before we continue, I'm going to make a mention of another arising head in the field of pathology. And folks, I've been monitoring this MERS, another seemingly released lab virus, very SARS-like, very high case fatality. Well, today I'm reading a post that the bubonic plague is now being detected in New Mexico and California animals. New Mexico officials are warning residents in the East Mountains and Santa Fe County that the bubonic plague was found in 2 local dogs. And they're saying keep your dogs and cats away from rodents, as officials fear they could be carrying Black Death-laden fleas. So just keep your ear to the ground, folks. I strongly suggest none of this is by accident. It's following a timeline of stepped released pathogens leading to what has been coined in some circles as the doomsday virus, or the end-all be-all, the one that really unleashes the death and destruction part, the one that is being depicted right now in another satanic predictive programming film from Hollywood called World War Z, starring Brad Pitt. It opened up this past weekend. And everyone's, running from zombies. Okay, well, they call this the zombie apocalypse virus. And no joke, in 2010, CDC announced, get ready for the zombie apocalypse. Well, as Truott has explained with some of his interviews and research on his show, it appears quite clear that also in the pathology labs waiting to be released at some future date is a concocted pathogen, a chimera supervirus, a triple recombinant chimera supervirus, combining genetics from silver-haired bat rabies, smallpox, and airborne influenza, with a reported 98% case fatality rate. So if you folks really want to go spend your money on satanic Hollywood's film World War Z, at the very least, bear that in mind as you do so, what I just said there. Okay, now, as we get into the subject of whistleblowing, I in the field of microbiology have long had a list that's been growing. It's not my list, but I've been paying attention to the list. The growing list of dead microbiologists. Anyone who had their hands on the development of these pathogens, who then outlived their usefulness, never lived to tell anyone anything further. So many of them have some have ended up in dumpsters in Washington, D.C. Others have just been found shot in the back in the forest. Others not so obviously, but certainly there's a growing consensus among concerned people that many of them were murdered. And I don't throw that out at all as consideration. I feel very strongly that that's very likely the case. And so now, we have the whistleblowing, Edward Snowden, and as I just spoke of JFK being whacked a couple days after his intent to expose and be a whistleblower in sense, right? Well, there's this article that I'm reading now, posted 2 days ago, that the suspicious activist and whistleblower deaths are on the rise, and to spread the word of warning. And at this point, the death toll stands at 5 whistleblowers dead in 2013 under the Obama administration. Dead, like 6 feet under. So this is found on the 23rd of this month over at thelastgreatstand.com. So anyone wants to read more on that, go there. New technology being developed over at MIT, and this is out of the Physics ARXIV blog from Massachusetts Institute of Technology's MIT Technology Review. This is today's post. New lensless camera takes multiple view pictures. A new class of imaging device from Bell Labs can take more than one view of a scene at the same time or use the same data to create a single high-resolution image. Earlier this month, we looked at new kinds of camera being built at Bell Labs that creates pictures using no lenses and only a single pixel. This lensless design is simple and easy to construct and suffers none of the aberrations usually associated with lenses. Indeed, none of the scene is out of focus. So it's easy to imagine that lensless cameras are threatening to change the way we think about imaging. Today, Hong Jiang and pals from Bell Labs show off another capability of the new design. The original camera makes an ordinary image with a single pixel. And then they show how with 2 pixels, it's possible to create 2 different images of the scene, the same scene. It consists of an LCD panel that acts as an array of apertures that each allow light to pass through and a single sensor capable of detecting light's 3 colors. Each aperture in the LCD array is individually addressable so that it can be opened to allow light to pass through or closed. Now, folks, your television screen, the computer screen that you are looking at most likely right now, is an LCD array. What they're not saying in this, and what I'm telling you right now, is that this is technology to take your television and your TV screen, your computer monitor, and turn it into a very sophisticated camera without your knowing it. Now, I submit, if this information is coming out right now from MIT, they've been doing it already for years. And I'm not the only one to think this way. This is something that was talked about years ago in the film Monarch, the New Phoenix program by Marshall Thomas. Again, this ties into the Edward Snowden story and NSA Data Collection Center in Camp Williams, Utah, this underground computing array in McLean, Virginia, they call the Beast. This echelon TIA nonsense. NSA, okay? Oh, boy. Yeah, who's the traitor here, okay? The NSA spying on everyone completely unconstitutionally, invading our privacy beyond belief, or the guy trying to show the world what they're up to, okay? So here's this thing True posted by Julian Assange 2 days ago. It has now been a year since I entered this embassy, and we're talking an Ecuadorian embassy in London, and sought refuge from persecution. As a result of that decision, I've been able to work in relative safety from a U.S. espionage investigation. But today, Edward Snowden's ordeal is just beginning. 2 dangerous runaway processes have taken root in the last decade with fatal consequences for democracy. Government secrecy has been expanding on a terrific scale. Simultaneously, human privacy has been secretly eradicated. A few weeks ago, Edward Snowden blew the whistle on an ongoing program involving the Obama administration, the intelligence community, and the internet services giants to spy on everyone in the world. As if by clockwork, he's been charged with espionage by the Obama administration. The U.S. government is spying on each and every one of us, but it is Edward Snowden who's charged with espionage for tipping us off. It's getting to the point where the mark of international distinction and service to humanity is no longer the Nobel Peace Prize, but an espionage indictment from the U.S. Department of Justice. Edward Snowden is the 8th leaker to be charged with espionage under this, and then True put in there, satanic president. Unless, I don't know if that's True's editorial or not. Bradley Manning's show trial enters its 4th week on Monday. After a litany of wrongs done to him, the U.S. government is trying to convict him of, quote-unquote, aiding the enemy. Quote. All right. The word traitor has been thrown around a lot in recent days, but who really is the traitor here? Who was it who promised a generation hope and change, only to betray those promises with dismal misery and stagnation? Who took an oath to defend the U.S. Constitution, and on a side note, on top of anything other than a Bible? I don't know what his hand was on, but, he couldn't even, he failed the oath the first time, supposedly took it in secret. So all in all, we don't really have any evidence that he ever really took the oath. But Assange continues. Who took an oath to defend the U.S. Constitution only to feed the invisible beast of secret law, devouring it alive from the inside out? Who is it that promised to preside over the most transparent administration in history, only to crush whistleblower after whistleblower with the boot heel of espionage charges? Who combined in his executive powers of judge, jury, and executioner and claimed the jurisdiction of the entire earth on which to exercise these powers? Isn't that Satan? Who arrogates the power to spy on the entire earth, every single one of us, and when he is caught red-handed, explains to us that, quote, we're going to have to make a choice, unquote. He'll need to make a choice, resign or face imprisonment, jail, a little waterboarding, and a miserable life in prison. Who is that person? Let's be very careful about who we call traitor. Edward Snowden is one of us. Bradley Manning is one of us. Barry Soetoro Dunham, a.k.a. Barack Obama, is not one of us. He's a fraud and he is evil. They are young, technically minded people from the generation that Barry Soetoro betrayed. They are the generation that grew up on the internet and were shaped by it. The U.S. government is always going to need intelligence analysts and systems administrators, and they're going to have to hire them from this generation and the ones that follow it. One day, their generation will run the NSA, the CIA, and the FBI. This isn't a phenomenon that's going away. This is inevitable. And by trying to crush these young whistleblowers with espionage charges, the U.S. government is taking on a generation, and that is a battle it is going to lose. This isn't how to fix things. The only way to fix things is change the policies. Stop spying on the world. Eradicate secret law. Seize indefinite detention without trial. Stop assassinating people. Obama loves to use murderous drones to protect his fascist police state government. Stop invading other countries and sending young Americans off to kill and be killed. USA, 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 spread democracy. People everywhere now see it for what it is, BS. Stop the occupations and discontinue the secret wars. In other words, stop obeying the demands of the satanic money changers. Stop eating the young. Edward Snowden, Barrett Brown, Jeremy Hammond, Aaron Schwartz, Gottfried Svartholm, Jacob Applebaum, and Bradley Manning. The charging of Edward Snowden is intended to intimidate any country that might be considering standing up for his rights. That tactic must not be allowed to work. The effort to find asylum for Edward Snowden must be intensified. What brave country will stand up for him and recognize his service to humanity? Tell your governments to step forward and stand with Snowden. Much more than Snowden, all people worldwide that cherish light, liberty, and freedom. So, latest word is, he did a switcheroo from Moscow. About all this press got on the plane thinking he was going to Cuba. Apparently a seat 17A was reserved in his name, and so huge press corps gathered. There was all this hullabaloo. And plane took off. Nobody sitting in 17A. So you got all these reporters scrambling around the plane, seeing if he's hiding under a coffee machine somewhere. But no, he wasn't on the plane. And now Putin steps forward, does some announcements today. I'm watching him here. First of all, he says, "Oh yeah, he's still here. He's in the transit zone, so